As we hear speculation about Mitt Romney or other people coming into the Republican primary in a sort of desperate effort to stop Donald Trump, I'd like to use this week's history video to go back to the two previous examples we have in modern history of an effort to stop a prevailing candidate by injecting a new candidate at the end of the process. It doesn't work out well. The first example was in 1964, when Barry Goldwater had defeated Nelson Rockefeller in a whole series of primaries for the Republican nomination. It was really the beginning of the Sun Belt offensive against the Rust Belt for control of the Republican Party. Until then, the party had been dominated by the establishment liberal Dewey Rockefeller wing centered in New York and Massachusetts. And here the Sun Belts from California and the Southwest, Texas and Arizona, began to make itself felt. Goldwater destroyed Rockefeller in the primaries. And a lot of people said the reason he did wasn't that people embraced his conservative ideology, but that people were turned off because Nelson Rockefeller dumped his previous wife, married Happy, who was his second wife, and in fact, she gave birth to their son during the presidential election. And that was before divorce was commonly accepted, and certainly dumping someone you'd been married to for decades was not very well accepted and was frowned upon. So the rap was generated in the Eastern establishment that we need a new candidate other than Rockefeller to stop Goldwater. And they prevailed on Governor Bill Scranton, the governor of Pennsylvania, to get into the race at the last minute, the last 2 or 3 months before Election Day. And he got in. He won his home state of Pennsylvania. He won 1 or 2 other states, but not much else. And his candidacy was too little, too late, and it did not have an important impact. The second example was in 1968, when Richard Nixon was steamrolling his way to the Republican nomination. A lot of people had doubts about Nixon because he'd lost to Kennedy in 1960 and humiliatingly been defeated by Pat Brown for governor of California in 1962. And after that defeat, Nixon gave a press conference where he petulantly said to the press, "You won't have Dick Nixon to kick around anymore." And that was kind of his obituary, people thought. But here he was coming back in 1968. And he beat everybody. The Henry Cabot Lodge got into the race. There was a strong effort for each of the various other candidates who got in. George Romney, Mitt's father, got in the race and dropped out when he claimed he was brainwashed in Vietnam. And Nixon was steamrolling his way to the nomination. So in the last couple of months before the convention, a guy named Ronald Reagan, who was governor of California, decided that he would get into the race in a last-ditch effort to stop Nixon. And he went into the Nebraska primary and lost it 75-25, and then got wiped out in a series of other primaries. He did carry his home state of California, but he was unopposed there. And Reagan sputtered, and it didn't do anything to derail Nixon's momentum. So if Donald Trump has sufficient momentum going into the convention, the only ones who'll be able to stop him are one of the existing candidates, Cruz, Kasich, or Rubio. Somebody new getting into the race wouldn't have much of a chance. Bad news, Mitt Romney. Thanks for watching.